Hey guys, this is Saga from TecworkZ, and today I'm going to put the dual cameras on the iPhone 11 up against the quad cameras on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Many people ask me in the comments that why do I even bother making these videos? Well, the answer has been the same since I first compared the cameras on the Mi A1 with the ones on the iPhone 7 Plus back in 2017. It is to show you guys how far the cameras on these budget smartphones have come, and you don't need to spend heaps of money to be able to take good images with your smartphones. Keep in mind that the iPhone 11 costs 5 times as much as the Redmi Note 9 Pro, so its images are definitely going to be better. But will they be 5 times as good? Let's find out. To keep the video from getting too long, instead of walking you through all the camera specs on both these phones, I will leave them on this slide. You can pause the video and go through them if you want. Now before we get to the image and video samples, if you are new to this channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. That way, YouTube will notify you as and when a new video goes live on this channel. Starting with the daylight images. While both these images look equally good at a glance, the difference becomes apparent if you look at them for a few more seconds. Colors, dynamic range and details are much better in the image from the iPhone 11. The Note 9 Pro gets a 48 megapixel sensor, but in the default mode, it captures 12 megapixel pixel bin images. Even with the larger sensor and a high megapixel count, Note 9 Pro's images don't have as many details as iPhone 11's images. I remember mentioning this in the dedicated camera review as well, that the Note 9 Pro tends to overexpose all of its images. So for almost all of these shots, I had to pull the brightness slider down by a few points manually, whereas the iPhone 11 pretty much nails the exposure on its own every single time. I think in most of our previous iPhone versus Redmi Note series camera comparisons, Redmi phones have performed better than this. Colors are a bit inconsistent from the Redmi Note 9 Pro. There is a slight magenta or green tint in some of the Note 9 Pro's shots, and in some images, this tint is much more clearly visible than others. When shooting outdoors, Note 9 Pro delivers slightly saturated images with more contrast, while colors from the iPhone are more true to life and appear as they really were. But when compared to images from the Note 9 Pro, they appear a bit too flat. But as we move indoors, Note 9 Pro's images suddenly lose all the contrast and sharpness, and they look really pale in comparison. While taking HDR shots, there is a clear difference, and images from the iPhone show better dynamic range, like you can see with this edge of the building. We see a clear separation between the sky and the building in the image from the iPhone 11. But in the Note 9 Pro's image, there are barely any details in this part. In this image, iPhone 11 again brought back more details from the shadows while preserving more details from the brighter areas. And as we zoom in, we can also see that the Note 9 Pro did not capture any details or sharpness in the overall image. We see the same in this next set of images as well. Not only does the Note 9 Pro fails to bring up the shadows, but it also fails to capture a sharper image. Both these phones get an ultra-wide lens, and they can take shots like this. You can see how much more of the scene these ultra-wide lenses let you capture compared to the primary lens. As we look at these images side by side, look at the difference in the white balance and color temperature from the two lenses on the Note 9 Pro, whereas the iPhone 11 maintains a similar picture profile on both these lenses. There is also 2x mode on both these phones, but neither of them have a telephoto lens, so these images are just digitally zoomed in. As the Note 9 Pro has a high resolution sensor, at first I thought its digitally zoomed images will turn out sharper, but I was wrong. As we zoom in, these images from the iPhone 11's primary sensor are much sharper and hold on to a lot more details compared to the Note 9 Pro. On both the phones, these ultra-wide shots are not as sharp or detailed as the ones from the primary camera. But I would say it is still nice to have these lenses, as they let us capture the same scene from a different perspective. If you want to capture high resolution images, Note 9 Pro will let you switch to the 48 megapixel mode. While these images do capture more details, the difference between these and the 12 megapixel pixel binned images can be noticed only if you zoom in 4 to 5 times. So personally, I don't use this mode at all, and I would also suggest you guys to stick with the default 12 megapixel mode. Coming to the close-up shots, these images look really good from both the phones. We kind of expect them to look good from the iPhones, but thanks to a bigger sensor and a wider aperture, they look equally good from the Redmi Note 9 Pro. That is, when it decides to set the focus. Very often, Note 9 Pro just won't set the focus on a particular object, not by itself and not even when I tapped on the object. I mentioned this in its camera review a month back, and Redmi still hasn't fixed this problem. After a few attempts, when it does set the focus, as I said, its close-up images look just as good as the ones from the iPhone 11. If you want to get even closer to the subject, iPhone 11 will only let you get this close. But thanks to a dedicated macro lens on the Note 9 Pro, you can get as close as 2.5 cm from your subject and still set the focus. In the past year or so, with every Redmi device, I have started liking the macro mode more and more. And I really hope Apple brings this mode to their next iPhones. Coming to the portrait mode. If you haven't heard me say this enough already, I just love this mode. It is the easiest way to make your images look like they were taken with a DSLR camera and an expensive prime lens. If your smartphone has this mode and you are not using it, you are missing out on a lot. Look at how amazing these portrait shots turned out. Normally, I find the edge detection to be better on Redmi smartphones, but with software updates, iPhone 11 has got a lot better at detecting the edges, and it actually did a better job in these images. It also managed to capture sharper subjects and better dynamic range in almost all of these shots. Even in this shot, Note 9 Pro missed some part of the cap, while the iPhone 11 ended up doing a wonderful job. You might think I am nitpicking on these small differences like edge detection and all, but this is a comparison video and I have to tell you guys which one did better. But if you check out the portraits on the Note 9 Pro alone, I think they look really good on their own. Another mode that is present on the Note 9 Pro and not on the iPhone 11 is the movie mode. It lets you take portrait shots in 21:9 aspect ratio with black bars at the top and bottom, making the overall shot look very cinematic. This is my new favorite mode, and I think more and more manufacturers need to add this on their smartphones. I am one of the few people who like to take portrait mode images of objects as well. As with the portraits of humans, I think this mode gives your smartphone images a more professional look. Both are good at detecting the edges of objects and separating them from the background. In this case, Note 9 Pro is capturing brighter images and iPhone's images are showing more contrast, which depending on your preference, you may or may not like. Redmi phones have always been good at detecting edges, but the iPhones for some reason have always struggled with it. And it is nice to see Apple step up and get the edge detection right on this year's iPhones. Moving on to indoors, artificial and lower lighting conditions. In these lighting conditions, difference between the two starts getting wider and wider. In this set of images, one from the iPhone is brighter and much more detailed, while the one from the Note 9 Pro is very soft overall. This is confirmed as we zoom in. We barely see any details in Note 9 Pro's image, while the one from the iPhone 11 holds on to most of the details. Note 9 Pro's performance gets worse as we move to even lower lighting conditions. I don't know if it is the new GM2 sensor from Samsung or if Redmi has messed up the image processing on this Note 9 Pro, but I think its performance is worse than the Note 8 Pro or maybe even the Note 7 Pro in these lighting conditions. Both of them get night mode to help them take better images in lower light, and this mode has done wonders on the iPhone 11. But we barely see any difference in the images from the Note 9 Pro. Night mode only helps it take slightly brighter images and handle the exposure from lights better. Other than that, these images barely have any details. For low light, iPhone 11 is a clear winner. I really hope Redmi is working on fixing the low light performance of this phone. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. Note 9 Pro has a 16 megapixel selfie camera as opposed to the 12 megapixel one on the iPhone 11, and this shows in their images. Selfies from the Note 9 Pro are a bit sharper, but make sure to turn off the beauty mode every time you switch to the selfie camera as it is on by default. iPhone 11 handles the colors and the skin tones better, while the selfies from the Note 9 Pro have a bit too much contrast in them. And sometimes there is also a very strong green tint in the image from the Note 9 Pro, as you can see in this one. For the portrait selfies, when there is just one person in the frame, I prefer these shots from the iPhone 11, because its portrait shots look more natural with better skin tones and colors. But when there are multiple people in the frame, I prefer taking these shots from the Note 9 Pro as it manages to keep everyone in the frame in focus, while the iPhones have always kept the person closest to the camera in focus. That being said, I won't mind using the Note 9 Pro for taking my selfies, both portrait and normal ones, but I just hate that the beauty mode is on by default and I have to turn it off every time I need to take a selfie. 4K videos don't get any kind of stabilization on the Note 9 Pro and they are capped at 30 FPS, while the iPhone 11 can shoot stabilized 4K 60 FPS videos. These 4K videos are unnaturally saturated from the Note 9 Pro, while the colors and overall videos look almost perfect from the iPhone 11. If you want electronic stabilization on the Note 9 Pro, you have to drop the resolution down to 1080p at 30 FPS. While these videos still don't match up to the iPhone's quality, when you shoot them in a lot of light, they still look good. For slow motion videos, iPhone can record 1080p videos at 240 FPS, and Note 9 Pro can do the same frame rate at 720p resolution. It can even do 960 FPS at 720p resolution, but those videos just look very processed, so I stay away from them. It is even hard for flagship smartphones to compete with the iPhones when it comes to video recording. So I won't be too harsh on the Redmi Note 9 Pro because it can still get the job done with usable electronically stabilized 1080p 30fps videos. For the images, we saw over 65 samples, and I think iPhone 11 came on top in pretty much every one of them. But we knew this from start, and the real question is, are its images 5 times better than the ones from the Note 9 Pro? If I am being completely honest, I think it is hard to put in numbers how much better its images are. But in certain situations like in lower light, I have to say that the Note 9 Pro is really bad. So much so that I would say if you are taking a lot of images indoors or in lower light, just stay away from this phone. In other situations, I think many people who just want to take a picture and are not bothered by how the dynamic range is or how the colors from the Redmi Note 9 Pro are can make do with this phone. But if for someone smartphone photography is important and they do care about these things, iPhone 11 is the way to go. It can definitely give an entry-level camera or a point and shoot a run for its money. These have all been my thoughts, but you guys saw the images too, so what do you think about them? Let me know in the comments. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to our channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.